Hey everyone, it's Elo. I hope that you're doing well. I'm not trying to be super trendy holding my mic, but I can't find my memory card for the mic that I usually put on a stand, and it's too cold to wear any kind of shirt that would put it at a good place for me to clip it, so sorry about that. Hopefully it'll only be this one video, unless the sound is incredible, in which case, get used to it. So first of all, I just wanted to say, I know there's few and far between of you, but I do appreciate those of you who are waiting for the next upload, and I know that it's different when it comes to ASMR. A lot of times I feel like you find your favorites and just pray that the next one even somewhat replicates, but I do think I have a somewhat fair group of people who come for the rambles and do enjoy more of the discussion type videos as opposed to the role plays. So I am sorry to those of you who have been waiting for a new one. My life has been in complete disarray for a couple months, and everything from moving my work office location to having a semi-major surgery to traveling across the country and visiting my cousin to debating uprooting my life. Just a lot of stuff going on, and of course for somebody like me who thinks a lot and has a lot of thoughts and ideas about just about everything, I have been writing a lot lately to try to cope with all of that. I think after you hit a certain point, you realize you've got to do something. Your body just kind of short circuits, and I definitely have hit that point and am now in a place where clearly I'm still very scatterbrained, and that has also stopped me from recording because I think it would have just been some incoherent jumble for a while. But I've gotten to the point where I think I've put enough effort into writing and trying to harness and reel things in that I'm ready to be able to talk about this topic in a somewhat linear fashion. So essentially, I've really been stuck lately on this feeling of contentment and what does that mean, and I don't need to tell any of you that there are consequences to the access that we have to seeing other people's lives online. I am still, though, in a gray space about whether maybe that's something that we can use to our benefit and without high consequences. So, for example, if your life feels kind of not quite what you were hoping for, and then you get to see online somebody just living, I'm not saying that you're going to look at them and be like, oh, their life's perfect, but just the lifestyle that they're leading is maybe something more that resonates with you, and you think, dang, I didn't even really think that was possible. Or you learn about a new type of job or community or something through the internet, and you think, dang, I wish my life was more like that in that regard, on a very factual, again, I'm not talking about oh man, I wish I had all this money and cars and a nice house, whatever. I mean more lifestyle type of thing, and just kind of marching to your own drum. And there's a lot of conflicting information. I feel like it's you can see all these people doing it and successfully, but then you hear, yeah, okay, well, for every person you see doing it successfully, there's 100,000 who don't. And I'm starting to think that maybe the difference is how much you give a shit, like your effort. I really, not that I believe in, I know I've discussed in a previous video that I was very upset learning that meritocracy is not like a real thing in our world. I just mean, I do think nothing's gonna happen comfortably in life for most of us. So if things aren't happening comfortably, it's like how they say there's never a good time to like have a kid, or never a good time to change your career or do a lot of the big life things. Like, you're never going to be fully prepared for everything that's going to entail. So part of me is starting to think that that kind of philosophy applies in this regard. I don't know. I could still be being fooled though, because there are just like a lot of really famous people, not just YouTube famous, but like even like standard celebrities as well, who are like, it's all about your mindset. You know, they're always like, it's me and God, or whatever they believe in, and they just really feel like their own belief in themselves and their drive to succeed is a huge part of their success. And I feel like that has to at least be part of it, right? I mean, maybe that sounds kind of simple, but it's so easy to think that it's too simple, and clearly that won't work. I don't know. I've just really been reevaluating my life, and there are issues that I've had, especially with my partner, that have been ongoing for years and years and years. And there's a lot of confusion about when to give up, when to push forward, when to put your foot down versus when to compromise. Or I think it's like that with almost everything in life, is you just can't be sure that the choice that you're making is the right one. You can only wait and see how you then feel afterwards. And then when you get there, it can be really hard to trust what you're feeling and to make new decisions based on what you're feeling, because it might not align with the picture that you had in your head of what you wanted to happen, or how you see the potential of something going a certain way. Or sometimes you might just feel exhausted too, and it's like you're really gung-ho about an idea or a topic or whatever for X amount of time, and then eventually your body's just like, okay, yeah, this is too intense and I need a break. And then you think, well, things aren't so bad the way that they are. So you just kind of slide back into complacency and familiarity. And there's also the aspect of things being really scary and difficult. It's hard to make change, and it's hard to enforce new boundaries and ways of life when you're not sure if they're going to result in something good. You're just kind of going on like a whim and maybe some deductive reasoning and hoping for the best. And I think the conclusion that I've come to is that it's probably overall better to try. I think. So let me get into, I guess, life discontent, because I think that that's something a lot of people can probably relate to, and it's something that has been really rattling me lately. After going through a lot of forced change over the past couple months, things I had to do, it changes your brain and you start thinking differently about, well, what can I do? And wow, I just went through something that was really hard, and maybe I'm more capable of more. And do I want to be capable of more? I think I do. But it's, like I said, it's easy to like reach for the low-hanging fruit and stay with what you're doing, or eat chips instead of a banana, or whatever the thing is. I love bananas, so that wasn't a good example for me, but you get what I'm saying. So basically I started making this list of what I want my life to look like in 5 years. And much to my sadness, I will be 39 in 5 years, which just makes me sick a little bit. But, first I wrote down like general goals. And they're probably a little too general, some of them. Like my first one's financial stability. I really need to get into like what that means for me. But I've also got writing and dancing regularly, being fit and healthy. Again, I can define that a little more. Having friendship and community, and if I get the opportunity to be a really kick-ass aunt. And then I kind of wrote down things that make me feel good in life, like, because I just keep asking myself, like, what am I after, so I wrote down creative output / just creating in general. That ended up being like the theme in the long run, was just like, I need to create stuff. Seeing beautiful or cool things often, which necessitates getting out of your routine. Learning new skills, interior design, being outside a lot, and I wrote daily preferably. And then I started a list of I am a person who ... So what kind of person am I? Like, what can I say about myself in 5 years that will be just like true statements? So I'm a person who moves my body a lot and feels great in it, laughs often with others, enjoys life and inspires others to also, doesn't smoke, drink, or do drugs, reads a lot of great books, puts time into people I love, likes my job and brings value to others through it, tries new things, and I put in parentheses, every other week, and learns through life. So I'm really trying to like whittle down and understand what makes me unhappy currently, or what makes me feel like I'm not just like living. Like, as you guys know, if you've followed my rambly train of thoughty type things, videos over the last however many years, I've struggled with, anxiety, depression, lack of religion, all those kinds of big life question type things for as long as I can really remember. And that has become something that I have not marked as like solved, but I've come to accept that those things are what they are, and there's just not going to be an answer for me. And I guess I've made peace with a lot of those things, more so than I did, say, like 3 to 5 years ago plus. I think I'm okay with those things because I kind of have to be. Like, I ran myself through all the paces and got sick of figure it out, really. And I've noticed that I can just be more present in my life if I just accept those things for what they are. And maybe every once in a while I'll write about them or think about them or have an interesting conversation about them, but generally speaking, I just don't bother anymore. And it's a big relief and something that has allowed me to open up in other ways and move on in other ways in my life. So that's been helpful, and I think growth in that regard. I'm glad that I'm not just spiraling about those things and getting extreme feelings about those things, and getting stuck in them. So that's been good, but I'm still just like, what am I doing here kind of thing. If I accept that this is just what it is and I'm here and I'm not going to change that, if those things are all true, then what then? What's the value in life? What am I trying to accomplish or feel, or what do I want to get out of this? Like trying to change my mindset into taking advantage of what's in front of me rather than just dealing with the fact that it is in front of me. And I think that mind shift does make a huge difference, but it now leaves me thinking, well, the things that I was comfortable with and settled with before, almost out of necessity, I don't feel are right anymore. And this isn't just like an overnight thing. This is definitely something that has been growing for probably my whole life. I think these are stages of the same problem, or whatever you want to call it, affliction. But here I am, and I'm trying to create a life that I can at least feel somewhat good about. I hope any of this is making any sense to anyone. Man, these things are always just so hard to talk about, but I'll give you an example. Lately, I've really been wanting to uproot my whole life and move across the country to be closer to my family. Like I said, I went and visited my cousin. I went to Arizona. I want to pick this up and show you, but I can't because I only have one hand. Anyway, I went to Arizona to visit my cousin, and that was a really great overall experience for me. And being around a family member, somebody who I also am similar to, was a really big deal. And I think it's easy to lose sight of, or not, maybe not lose sight of, but you can just kind of get used to losing community. And I think as someone who moved as an early teen and lost all of my childhood friendships and connection to family and all that stuff, I've kind of become familiar with feeling so isolated and like so on the outskirts of everyone and everything. And it's become a huge part of my identity that like I don't fit in here. Not in like a poor me kind of way, but just it's a fact of my life that like the people in the Southeast and I just don't click right 99.99% of the time. I've made two, I want to say. One of them is like, it's kind of 1.5 friends who are still living in 20 years, and you start to tell yourself stories that kind of just makes that almost normal. You're just like, well, I'm not a very good socializer, or I have all these things and therefore, or I just don't have that built-in community that other people have, or whatever. And I was talking to one of my older cousins, not the one I'm super, super close with, but his older brother, when I was in Arizona, and he was like asking me if I like it here and stuff in Alabama. And I was like, no, not really, I haven't really found my people. And he was like, oh, okay, well, how long have you been there? And I was like, like almost 8 years. And he was just like, what? It didn't occur to me until I saw the look on his face of like, the fuck do you mean that you've gone 8 years without like finding your people? What are you still doing there? Kind of look. And I was just, that was the first time it really hit me like, damn, it really doesn't have to be this way. And location does have something to do with it. And I think that's another topic for another video, perhaps. But I do think that every time I've gone back up to the Northeast since I moved, I interact with people up there very differently. That's become very apparent to me, is that they're extremely familiar to me, even if they're not related to me. Something about the mannerisms and the culture and the food and the way, just interacting with people is so much more natural for some reason. And down here, it's markedly not. I don't think this will sound real to people unless they've experienced it, but it really is so different. Just interacting with even strangers, totally different. And yeah, I guess I've just made it my like a story I tell myself about myself, that I just don't make friends. I just don't have an easy time with that kind of thing. And meanwhile, when I was out there and like hanging out with my cousin and his wife and my aunt and uncle and my other 2 cousins, one of whom also has like a partner, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be around people you actually click with. Strange. Like, I didn't know that I could still do that, and there it was. And the call for that is very strong and so important, and it's something that logically I know is important. So I'm trying to, I want that. That's kind of what it boils down to, is I want that, and I want that more than the life that I have here, which I've been kind of hanging on to with threads over and over again. And I think actually making videos has been a huge help in my persisting, really. Because when I speak to you, I'm not speaking necessarily to someone that I'm used to in my day-to-day. It's like I get to talk to people from all over, and some of whom really understand what I'm saying and that I've been able to click with, and that's just been a really nice comfort in a land where I truly, like, I already will never totally, well, this is again maybe something I'm just telling myself, but if you have a brain that works different, if you're an Aspie, if you're on the spectrum, if you're neurodivergent or whatever in any way, if you're a highly sensitive person, you always feel a little like an alien, like you don't belong. when you find people that you do click with, because they are out there, it's just your whole world's different. And yeah, I need that, regardless of what it means for everything else in my life. I just feel like that is so much more important to me. And again, some of the things that I've written down about, you know, who I want to be, laughing often with others and putting time into people who I love, and, you know, all of those types of things are not possible unless you have, like, having friendships and community. If you don't have people in those spaces, then you don't get those opportunities at all. And I do think that that's like the goodness in life. So I'm trying to figure out a way to make that a reality for myself, and there's a lot that's been going along with that I can't even like start to talk about yet, just for my own sanity. But yeah, I guess my final kind of thought is that there is a lot more out there. There is a lot of opportunity. There is the option to craft things to better suit who you are personally. And I think breaking down a lot of those, you know, how things are supposed to be, social norms and whatever, is necessary. You really have to let go of all of that shit and start from the ground and really figure out who are you, though, and not care about what other people do. You can get inspiration from other people, but you can't make your life choices based on other people. And I think that's, to a degree, okay. Like, you don't want to be a selfish prick, but realize when you've put in all the effort that you can and you've gotten to a point where you're still not feeling it. I think we can all feel it. I think life can be a good thing. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I think there's a way to craft it to be a good thing, even if you're somebody like me who historically hates it and would rather not. So hopefully this was useful to someone, or just something nice to kind of listen to in the background. And thank you all for being so patient with me while I've been crazed and completely MIA. Yeah, I will see you in my next video.